For thousands of years, buildings represented the rise of a nation. So if you wanted to see a nation rise on the global scale, it would use monumental architecture. Winnipeg at the turn of the 20th century was a capital of destined promise. It went from a very small population and ballooned to this hopeful metropolis. And in the effort of seeing this, the early city fathers saw that unless we had a master plan for the city, you would have urban sprawl, slums, and squalor, which was already starting to develop in like the site of the New Jerusalem, the North End, and whatnot.
And so the city fathers and even the Hudson's Bay Company, when they were laying out their land, really wanted to create a more beautiful place. And that's where the City Beautiful movement really comes from. It was a reaction to all those things. And they felt that by building these great monuments, by building, grand boulevards with tree-lined streets and wide sidewalks, they could really affect not just the city, but how people felt about themselves and their quality of life and all those things. And that's where sort of all those big monuments came from.
Many cities adopted this. Chicago, Cleveland, Washington, D.C. And it was based on a model coming from Europe, like Versailles. The great cities of the world had beautiful causeways and wonderful malls and open expanses. Now these ideas percolated here in Canada, situating themselves initially here in Winnipeg. So in 1911 to 1913, Winnipeg became the national center of the City Beautiful movement. Winnipeg's destiny was going to be the Chicago of the North. We've always heard this trope. They thought to begin with a master plan for the city. We understand that there are master plans for sheets of music or for buildings, but imagine a master plan for a whole city. And the master plan was going to centralize around Broadway and Memorial. Now, if you begin with the mall in Winnipeg, you have the strangely asymmetrical axis. It's not straight. You'll notice this. That was a mistake. Initially, the mall was supposed to be double the width, twice the length. It was supposed to be terminated, as it is here, at the Manitoba Legislative Building, but at the very end was supposed to be our new City Hall. That wasn't built. It was built in the present site of the new City Hall. But the original plan for it was this grand, extraordinary building, a palatial City Hall at the end. So you had civic power and provincial power along the great Mall of Triumph. That's what it was called. The same people that devised this mall, and in fact were invited to Winnipeg to work on the mall in Winnipeg, Memorial Boulevard, were the same people that designed the mall in Washington, D.C., which has the very same operative roots. You have the Lincoln Memorial, the Long Mall, the great Washington obelisk in the center, and then the U.S. State Capitol building. So the idea behind Winnipeg was it was supposed to be a metropolis of great growth, and the best way to signal it was through architecture.
People thought it was going to literally be the Chicago of the North, or not even that, the New York of the North. And then for a series of reasons, we always talk about the Panama Canal, the World War I, the Depression, World War II. There was 50 years where really nothing happened in Winnipeg. But we were doing things at that time, we were really thinking much bigger than we really were. It was a city of 200,000, but we were thinking like a city like Chicago. We were thinking that we were going to be 4 million people in a few generations, We really thought this was going to be the place. And they were building buildings that were not of that time. They were sort of thinking of the next generation, that these were legacy buildings for the city in the future.